Alright, here we go. We have my Race-Max, which is a T-Maxx 3.3 4907. The video quality is not the best. I apologize, but it is off my cell phone. So I'm going to show you how to set your camber and toe and everything for a decent bashing setup. Now notice I don't have any actual camber gauges, anything like that, so it's going to be probably not the best professional, but it'll work. If you were doing racing or something like that, you'd need a lot more technical tools, which you obviously already have since you have camber and toe gauges. Okay, the first thing that you need to do is you need to set your pivot ball retainers. Now, if you notice, I don't have wheels with slots in them like stock, so I've already loosened this nut to pull it off to show you. So what we're going to do is I'm going to pull this wheel off, and you've got your pillow ball retainers right here and right here. Now, to adjust those, you've got your special traxxas tool, which looks like so, to adjust them. Now, how tight you want them is so, say, if you grabbed your control arm here and your carrier here, you want to try and wiggle those apart, and you want to tighten those up just so it's tight enough where you get rid of the wiggling, but not tight enough to reduce it from turning. You can easily do that by taking off this screw right here to move your turnbuckle out of the way so you can move it freely. That way you can see if you've got it too tight for your pillow balls. Now you can do that on all four corners if you have the stock setup, which you do. Okay, so you're going to get those set, upper and lower with your special tool. And then what you're going to do after that is to set your camber. Now to set your camber, I'm going to put my wheel back on here so my milking when I put my phone down. Alright. Now, got my wheel kind of just positioned back on, not tightened or anything. But to set your camber, start off by tightening your lower pivot ball and your upper pivot ball all the way in. Now once you're all the way in, your tire is going to be angled in like so. Not necessarily that far or anything, but it's going to be angled over. So now what you do after that is you always set your camber at standing right height. So if you've pushed it down, something like that, it kind of sits a little lower. If you pushed it down, or if you lift it up, you don't want it sitting all the way up. You want to bounce the front end so it's going to sit naturally. So just kind of pick it up, bounce it, let it drop. And then this is the closest thing I have next to me, which happens to be Tuna Helper, to get your camber right. And I got a small table, but all you do is you're going to set it here, like so, or your camber gauge or whatever. Just put it right up against the tire. And since my tire's loose, it's kind of harder. But what you're going to want to do is when you first do that, your tire's going to be leaned in kind of like so, even though I'm leaning this. So it's going to look kind of like that, only this would be straight up and down. So then what you would do is take your upper pillow ball, since it's already in negative, and you're going to loosen it out a little. Now to loosen that out, you're going to have, well, I have to take my tire off, you don't, but you're going to take, whatever stud size Allen wrench, and you're going to fit it through the hole inside of that, and go all the way to the pillow ball. Now, once you get in there, the reason they say that you have to compress the suspension is because if you normally look, well, like mine's set up all low, my pillow ball's, pretty much going to be straight over with the control arm. Yours, the suspension's going to hang down lower. So, say like this line is your, where you got to put your Allen wrench in, the pillow ball is going to be angled down like this, so it's going to be coming in at an angle. So if you just try and fit an Allen wrench straight in, you're not going to be able to get it. So you got to compress the suspension until that levels out. That way you can slide in your Allen wrench into your pivot ball and get your, in so you can adjust it. Now, you're going to have to adjust it a little bit at a time. And then every time you adjust it, pick it up, drop it again so it sits at free height, and then put your, camber gauge, or in my case, hamburger helper, back up against the side of it, and keep doing this until you get it to where the bottom of the tire and the top of the tire just gently both touch your gauge straight up and down. Now, once you've done that, you should have your camber set up, fairly decently. And I prefer 0 because it's kind of an overall around. As you compress the suspension, you'll notice that the camber changes. So if you're setting it up for negative, it's already going to be in negative. 0 is going to ride right in the center of the tire. If you set it up for negative, you're already going to be riding on this edge more. So that's, potentially half the tire that you're not getting traction on. So by setting it up 0 at free ride height, it's going to give you fairly even wear and everything else. And then once you hit bumps, it's going to camber in a little bit. Here's more than mine because mine's already pretty low. But it's going to camber in, and actually this one's way, way off. Okay, anyway. So after you set that all up and get it set to 0, then you're going to want to do your turnbuckles. Now, to get your turnbuckles adjusted right, you'll notice the thread count. It's kind of hard to see because not the best lighting, but you got your thread count back there too. Now, what you're going to want to do is kind of try and make your wheels as straight as possible, kind of like so. And give me 1 second, I'm actually going to bolt my tire back on for this. Okay, tires bolted back on, got my nut on and everything. Now, set your toe. Let me kind of turn my car a little bit. Now, since this is not a rock crawler, you always want your rear tires to be angled in, kind of like so. Obviously not that much, just a little bit. So you're going to start off, let's start off with the rear. Adjust it so your turnbuckles are all the way in and your threads are hidden. Now, as you can see here, my threads are kind of already showing some because I already have mine adjusted. Mine are actually fairly straight, and I need to readjust them. A couple crashes when you catapult. If it lands, like, say, right here, it could shove the wheel this way and kind of just shove the rod through the threads and compress it all. Or if you land, say, right here on the front side of the tire, it could pull the wheel out and actually pull the turnbuckle out. Now, I know RPM does make the turnbuckle ends. I don't know if they work any better or not, so that might be something to maybe think about. But you're gonna trim this all the way in, like off the vehicle, just until the threads are barely hidden, and make sure you can bolt it up on both sides. Then after that, bolt it back up, and then you've got your little flat spot right here in the center. Now, I've got my traxxas tool, which is a 5mm, and you're just going to slowly turn it, say, I don't know, it's kind of hard to get to, so maybe a quarter turn at a time until your rear wheels are both kind of straight. Now, again, I don't have a toe gauge or anything, so I just kind of like eyeball it, like compare the inside edge to like the chassis, kind of make it even. And then you're going to want to go a little farther until your tires are, just kind of angled this way a little bit. Now, you got a camber gauge, I don't, so you can take like a measuring tape and say measure from the inside edge. I don't have any way to really hold it, but you're going to want to measure from, like, say, right here in the center, straight across to right here in the center. Now, if you do that, and then you measure on the front, and then they both read 0, then you know your rear tires are going to be perfectly straight. Now, after that point, you can use a camber gauge or whatever, or if you really wanted to, you could get like a big piece of cardboard, kind of lay it out, measure your wheel distance from outside or inside, and kind of draw, you know, a straight parallel 90-degree line over here, 90-degree line over here, and then say get a protractor and mark off your degrees with the protractor for your different angles both ways. That way you kind of got a general basis, and then you can just kind of, you know, once you set it up, I'd say outside since it's easier to see, so your line will be right here, and then you'll have your different angles, you know, both ways. And then you can kind of go off that, and if you really wanted to get your, you know, what angle you wanted. But, so after you do that, you know, just adjust both sides evenly, and you should be pretty good there. And then you're kind of going to do the same thing with the front. Now, notice I said the rear tires always need to be in, unless it's a rock crawler. Then the rear tires are out, but that's for different reasons we're not going to get into. So once your rear tires are facing in, you're going to want to go to your front tires. Now, you adjust it the same way. Start off with your turnbuckles all the way, you know, in so there's no threads exposed at all, and do the same thing. Now, if you're looking for more straight line performance, then you're going to want your front tires towed in, you know, pointing at this much of an angle, well, not that much of an angle, but at an angle the same way. That's going to give you good straight line performance so that you can go straight easy. Now, if you're looking for, like, really good handling, you would want them towed out. That way, you know, the tire's already partially there, you know, on the turn, so when you turn the wheel, it doesn't have to turn as far. And it can actually turn just a hair further because it's already that way. And that'll give you better handling. Now, I kind of shoot for straight in the middle because, you know, I like straightaways and I like corners. So I just set them up for completely straight. You're going to want to do the same exact thing you did on the rear to get it straight, only with the front. Now, if you look, mine aren't extremely perfect. That turnbuckle is actually in or out a little further than this one, it looks like. So mine's not perfect, but, you know, it works. It doesn't have to be perfect, just close. Now, you set it up the same way. You know, so you're going to want to get your wheels fairly straight. Easiest way to do it is, you know, just kind of eyeball it. Obviously, if they're both, you know, all the way in, they're both going to be angled this way and angled this way. So just even amount of turns on both of those as well until you get them both straight. And you can do the same thing with the tape measure from, like, say, half the height of the tire, so right in the center, across. It's kind of hard to do because the chassis is in the way, but you should be able to do it pretty well with your toe gauge, which in that case you would just kind of, say, set it up going across and get it so that your mark is right in the center of your tire. You could actually measure it and put a little mark on there with something to get a mark right in the middle if you wanted to, and then adjust both sides so that they're straight. Then after that, you can pull your, I'm going to flip this over, you can pull your servo horn off right here, and this screw right here. Pull that off, turn on your radio equipment, and that'll allow this to center. And once that centers, you're going to turn your wheels by hand until they're as straight as you can possibly get them. And then you're going to put this back on. You know, put your screw back on. Then at that point, you know, once you get it running and everything, you're going to drive it down the road, and say if it pulls to the left a hair, then you're going to take your trim on your remote, which this is the old style remote because my other one's somewhere else. But turn your steering trim. If it's pulling left, turn your steering trim a little bit to the right at a time. That's how you fine tune it. Just turn it until it goes straight. So hopefully this helps you with your setup and everything. I think I'm going to go ahead and say that this is good. I'm Kenny. I was your instructor for today, and I wish you luck.